Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Larson, and this is Read, Write, and Cite, channel where I teach you how to read, write, and cite for your college classes. This is going to be the first in a series of videos, just really slowly going through the writing process in preparation for writing an essay, right? So, in this video, I want to talk about brainstorming, and specifically one activity that I like to do a lot with my students. So, let's get started. Depending on who you're talking to, there's the writing process is going to look really different. Let's be clear up front. There's no correct way to write a paper. There are steps which a lot of people kind of agree on. It doesn't mean that that's what you have to do. But in my experience, the steps that are generally taught as a writing process, I think are really good steps, especially for students to do that may not have a whole lot of writing experience, because it kind of forces you to think as you write about different steps with a different purpose for each stop along the way, right? So the first thing I teach my students to do is make sure you understand what you're being asked to do. And we'll probably talk about that in a different video. Make sure you understand your writing prompt, right? But then once you know what you're being asked to do, you can start to brainstorm. You can start to figure out, okay, what ideas do I want to think about? And so here's where I like to give my definition for what brainstorming is. Brainstorming is not the step of the process where you decide what you're going to write about. Brainstorming is the step in the process where you are generating ideas that you might write about. Brainstorming is the step where you are coming up with ideas. Now, what's brainstorm look like? Well, it could look like a list. It could look like a doodle on a paper. It could be a drawing. It could be a cluster map where you're putting things together, and you're drawing circles, and this idea connects to this idea. It could look a lot like a lot of different things, but its purpose, and this is the important thing, its purpose is you are generating ideas. Now, it's really, really hard for a lot of students to take the time to come up with ideas and not immediately try to edit or censor them down, which is why I ask my students to think of it as a different step altogether. Brainstorming is not when you should be deciding what you're going to write about. That comes later. You're just trying to come up with ideas because you can't choose without any options. So you need to come up with some ideas. All right. So for example, I recently assigned my students to write a personal narrative essay. So what is that? Well, it's a story about something you've experienced, right? In essay form. So it's got to have, some sort of point. So I asked them to brainstorm, and I gave them kind of a worksheet to walk them through the process, which reminded them of the instructions. They're like, okay, so think of some stories, think of some ideas that you might want to come up with and put them down on paper. There's no rule for how long this needs to take, but take the time you need to come up with ideas, and then challenge yourself to keep going. The example I was giving as I was teaching them was, if you stopped after 4 ideas, maybe that 4th idea was a good one. But what if the 27th idea, the idea you didn't get to because you gave up too soon, would have been fantastic? If you would have taken the time to keep going, you might have come up with something really fantastic. I also think, in terms of effort and time, the planning stages of writing are where you can be most efficient. You can make sure that you aren't wasting your time later by making sure your ideas are working now. Because if you wait until you've already written half your paper and then you realize your idea doesn't work, there's a whole lot more work that has to go into fixing a paper than it is to doing it right in the first place. So that's why taking time to brainstorm is incredibly important right up front. So here's my challenge to you. Next time you go to write an essay, maybe that's right now, take the time to make a list, to come up with some ideas, to draw out a graph, a chart, a something, and give yourself the freedom to generate ideas, to come up with ideas without having to decide which one you're going to do right away. Because what this is going to do is it's going to create, hopefully, kind of a state of flow where you open up yourself to maybe consider something you wouldn't have if you were editing yourself along the way. If you're telling yourself, no, that's a stupid idea. No, I can't do that. No, it's dumb. That would never work. Write it down. This isn't for anyone else to see. Take the time, then look at what you've come up with, and at a different step, make that decision. But for now, while you're brainstorming, you're just trying to come up with ideas. I hope that's helpful. I hope this gives you, if nothing else, just the permission to take the time to do it right. So here it is. Go and do it. All right. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Jacob Larson. This has been Read, Write, and Cite, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.